Welcome back to the Art Corner. It's been a while, but we're excited to get a little bit of a fall picture that will flow us into cooler weather. This one I chose out of two, and I hope I made the right choice. And y'all are going to go all the way from the beginning to the end with me on this one, so bear with me. I've got my eraser. But this is a really pretty kind of quiet scene where it looks like it's chilly, but there's just a leftover of this gorgeous fall we're experiencing. I mean, this one is beautiful. So you guys, I'm doing it in acrylic today. I've already got my horizon line, and I'm going to start sketching, and then you guys just endure with me on this one. I think I'm really going to want to keep this one maybe for myself, and that's what I try to pick if I can. And acrylic paint has got a vibrancy to it that oil doesn't. But if you still want to give it that rich oil look, you can get an oil varnish. And after it's dry, just varnish it in an oil varnish. It looks like an oil painting. I won't be varnishing it today, but I am going to try to give it a rich oil look. This is a little stream. And I chose this because it's got some foggy trees, a little bit of orange in it from leftover fall. And it also shows some reflection. So I want to make sure I get enough river in there so that you can see the reflection of these trees. And I'm going to go ahead and draw them in while I'm talking about it so I won't forget. This first tree is going to be your darkest tree because it's closer to you. Now use the side of your canvas to kind of eyeball the straightness of this tree instead of getting out you can get out a ruler if you want to, but no tree is perfectly straight, so it needs to be a little off anyway. But I just use the side of my canvas to sort of eyeball the length of this. Get rid of that horizon line. Take it all the way up and off the canvas. Then you've got another tree here. And if you'll notice, the smaller trees in your neighborhood or around, they turn first. And usually they're the most vivid with color. So this little tree is going to really carry a lot of the color in this painting. There's another tree back here in the background. I tried not to drink too much caffeine this morning so I wouldn't be so shaky, because you do need kind of a steady hand for this to rock and roll with you. There we go. Here we go. Take this one all the way up too. This is a background tree, and we're going to fog them up. I'll show you kind of how to do that too, Lord willing. There we go. Let me get rid of these horizon lines. Nothing like a kneaded eraser. They're the bomb. Okay, there's my little one. Now, there's that, and then here's one way off in the distance. Back here, I mean way in the distance. So I'm going to very lightly put that one in. Then there's one that you see just a little bit more than that, not much. So he's very lightly back here. This one you see a little more. So bear down your lead just a little more for him. There we go. There's our last tree. And I want to show a little distance with some foggy clouds kind of thing going on back in here. Maybe a few little dead ones. All right, here's my first tree, and this one's going to be my darkest one. I may even just paint in the branches. Here's a branch from another tree somewhere. Let's get this one in good because they're going to have orange coming off him. Now, this reflection is what kind of makes this cool. so you can see the water, and there's a few leaves on it. So get your pencil and go straight down from that tree into your water. Make sure that you have it directly below it so it looks like a reflection. This guy is behind that one a little more. Lighter, here he is. Now these are just very faint, but they're still directly under those trees. And that was what I thought was cool about this painting, was this reflection in the water here. There we go. First thing we want to do is your background first, and then you pull forward so that whatever's directly in front of you is the last thing that you paint. So I want to get my white, some black, and a little bit of blue to give it that kind of a early morning. And it's not really ghosty, but it is kind of very quiet and serene looking. Maybe a little ghosty. Little black. And guys, I just use this. You can buy the really good acrylic paint, and sometimes I do. The Galleria, they all sell really good acrylic paint, and some better artists have fussed at me for not using more expensive paint. And when I do, I can tell a difference. But for just a little quickie painting that you want to do, these little apple barrel paints that you can get at Walmart or Hobby Lobby do great. All right, now I'm going to get my little favorite sharp brush. Using water with acrylic, that's your blending medium. And I'm going to try to, on my paper plate, which is cheapy, get this kind of background going. Soft, soft, but we need to get that canvas covered. Okay, and you know what? Just noticed a couple of other trees that I want to get in. They're back here, very, very light, but I don't want to forget them. There's one. Okay. Now, let's just kind of get this covered, get my canvas kind of covered with paint. And even if I lose a tree or two, it's okay. I know where they were. Sometimes with a paintbrush, you end up drawing, and that's why I like the sharp edge paintbrushes. Now, my lead might move around a little bit because I didn't use hairspray and spray this, but that's okay. It'll make it a little ghostier looking. There we go. And the water is actually the color of your background as well. White is going to be your friend in this painting. Don't try to just paint around your trees. Just go on top of them with your background. Watch that paint just splatter everywhere. Just go on top of them. You'll find them again. But that canvas has to be covered. There we go. I'm not a huge orange fan, but this one just really popped. And I didn't want it to look Bob Rossy either. You know, everybody kind of depicts, you can tell what is a Bob Ross copy and what's not. And I wanted to get the orange and the happy little trees and all that stuff that he does, but I didn't want it to look Bob Rossy. I kind of wanted it to look like me. And that's really what you should shoot for when you paint. It should look like you, and somebody should be able to look at your paintings as you continue to use your ability and say, oh yeah, that's a so-and-so. They should be able to see and recognize your work. All right, now back here, I'm going to kind of show where the horizon is, a little blue in there, and then my water. With acrylic, remember, water is your blending medium. There are other blending mediums you can use with acrylic paint, but I just like water. The other can get a little bit gluey feeling. Water will be smooth every time. That's what acrylic paint's made for. You don't want too much though. That's why you have your paper towel right here. Dab off that extra. Add a little more blue to this part. And then I want to get some of that blue up in this background here. Wow, I'm starting to talk like Bob Ross. Here we go, right up in here. You don't want to see any start stop. So if you do, I have one right there. Get rid of it. Have it blend. You may have to change brush to a dry brush to have that go away. Smooth that out. I'm going to use this. I can tell it's going to be a good fog brush too. Go ahead and take this vague line all the way across. That shows my horizon. There we go. A little more blue. A little more vague area over in here. And sometimes with acrylic, just like oil, you need to let maybe a section dry, even if it's just for a few minutes. Go back in and add a little more paint to it. Time just changed, so the mornings are starting. You're starting to see some light early, and it's so pretty. It really is. Now I want to decide what to do first. I think I'm going to do my trees. So hang on. Yeah, here we go. Here's a good sharp brush. Let's go ahead and start this front tree, which I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to start the back tree, but I want to make sure I get the tone in. I'm going to start him. And we'll have orange last, because I tell you, once you put a bright pigment on a palette like this, it will take over. So let's just do our dull, soft pigments first. Here's our first tree. All the way at the top. And remember, your trees are not going to be perfectly straight. Want to go ahead and get some detail on him. There is a little brown. Not much, mostly gray and black. This is going to be our most prominent besides the branch in front of it. A little moss on him. This is the time of year when you get busy, but you still have more inside time. And, you know, the older I get, it's weird. Most older people say, oh, I don't like winter. I love it. I'm really getting where I like it. It's quiet. You're not feeling like you have to be out working in the yard as long. Some dark. This is my darkest tree. Now I'll wait to do the branches as soon as I get all these. Now let's get this little, let me get the one behind him first, right here. Now he's going to be super light. And that's the thing, this is going to gradate back. So hope I can do this. Hang on. It's hard to do a Rembrandt in 45 minutes. There we go. A Lighter, lighter. Don't feel like you've got to, it's almost watercolory feeling. Don't feel like you've really got to lay the paint to this. And winter's also a good time for you at-home painters. It's something to do besides play cards or watch TV. You know, have you a little spot in your house where you can paint. They say you live longer. I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that gray. That'll take it back a little bit more. Yeah, we're all going to get real busy soon. So these next few weeks before December, and take a leaf walk. Go out and wax some of them. They'll last a long time. Just take some good pictures and bring them in and paint them. There we go. That one's a little bit lighter than the first one. And then this one back here, you barely see it. Okay, so I'm just going to use leftover paint and put him back here. There you go. You just barely want to see this one. I was going to do a still life, but man, you talk about hard. And if you don't have that much time, you know, you don't have that much time to mess up. But one way that you can really learn to paint is by doing still life. I know a lot in art school, you know, that's required. And I was going to do an Emily Bronte quote on a leaf still life. But you could always do an Emily Bronte quote on something like this too. But still lives are very hard to do. We did some gourds in my art class, and they turned out great. But just, you know, those warty looking pumpkins, we did those in art class, and they were really cool. All right. Gotta quit talking, pay attention. One back here too. Let me get rid of that. I made a mistake. Too much blue. Too much black. See how these trees are all kind of irregular? That's realistic. Now, I've let this one dry a little bit. I'm going to go back in and darken some of him, because he's our forefront. He's the one that's in front. And put a little bit of moss on him. Just kind of dabbing on some growth on that bark a little bit, with a little bit of brown and a little bit of white. Help it look more realistic. And you're going to see detail on the one closest to you. It's kind of like grass. You don't see blades of grass from fields way far away, only up front. Okay. Little light on this side, and that'll help maybe turn it just a little bit. Okay, now let's look and see what we need to do. Maybe a little more moss. Oh, I know, we left out this little dude. All right, let's get him in. I left out that little one that's going to have all the color. And he's really dark. All right, right here he is. There we go. Now, penciled him in. Watch me keep changing brushes on you. One thing about tree branches that's real important is that they go away. They're not thick at the end, okay? They're very thin. They go away. I'm going to get this part thick and then I'll show you a good tree branch brush. Okay, I've got one here. Yeah, here's one. These long, skinny brushes are great for tree branches because this one's got a little paint on it. I can feel it. But what they do is they help that just go away like that. You want them to. That you don't want them to be stumps at the end. Okay, look. Just pull that away. And actually, this painting has got several just little branches that are coming up. This one comes up and is just kind of involved right in there. But there's also a tree back there I forgot to paint. So let me get him in. And he's so light it won't make any difference. He's right back here and he's super light. There we go. Get him in. Go ahead and get his branches in. There we go. He's so light you barely see him. And I'm going to fog up maybe some of these. We may have gotten them light enough. Bring their roots down in here. And this is all going to be covered in orange anyway. All right, let's get our tree branch brush again. And let's start doing some branches on these trees. Start with this guy. And this branch just kind of goes up and then you pull it off like that. And I'm gonna go over this bottom part just with a little white. All right, and then there's another little part right there. Okay, there's a good sized branch coming out of nowhere. Up here, since I've touched it, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it. Goes up like that. Change brushes on you again. I do that all the time. I just go from one to the other. Okay. Let's go ahead and take this branch. And it goes up, down, make it kind of crooked right here. And that's what kind of makes this interesting, are all these little creaky branches everywhere. You want to get rid of any canvas holes that you see in them. This one's got a few canvas holes. Let's get rid of those. Please don't drip. There we go. Very light. Oop, it dripped just a little bit. That's all right. I'll fix it. Now, this little branch has got another one off it. And having a light touch is really helpful when you're doing these far away branches. Now, I'm going to get back in the background and get some of those far away branches in there. So I'm using a little blue, a little white, and dipping into my gray. And I hope I get this right. Let's see. Very, very light. Sharpen my brush with water. All right. There we go. Just barely back there, okay? And don't do too much. I'll tell you, less is more in some things, but in painting for sure. You can overdo it. There's some more. There's one little tree that's kind of peeking out at you way back here in the back. And I'm just going to use leftover paint and get him in. And that's what's cool. Look here. Just leftover, whatever's on your brush. Just use that for these. There's a little background woody area back there. We don't really know what's going on, but it's there. There's a little branch there. There's some more branches in front of the orange we haven't gotten to yet, but I made a mistake right there, so I'm going to use that as a branch. There we go. One right up here. And it's kind of crooked down like that. Maybe a couple more in here. Now, I'm going to darken this guy. He's right up front. Ooh, way too much. Here we go. I'll darken this guy. Because you need some up front. Darken this guy too, just a little bit. And then this has got another little creaky branch that comes down. My touch gets lighter and lighter as I go out. No stumps at the end of your brush, at your branches, okay? They have to go away. So let me get my go away brush and make this one lighter. Needs to go away toward the end. Kind of disappear. And this light and dark that I'm doing in this painting gives it that creepy, foggy. I don't think I'm going to have to do fog over it. We might. There we go. Really dark here because this one's up front. Let me get that. There we go. And the darker you get this up front tree, the lighter those will look. They'll go back further. Don't be afraid of light and dark. The artists that are, you can tell, and it really shows in their paintings. Just the light and dark are values, and they absolutely make or break a painting. Okay. This one's going to have a lot of little orange doogies on it. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and start with the bottom part. And once again, your lights and darks are really super important in this little creek. I'm going to use burnt sienna and some black and start edging out. Actually, that orange starts over here. I want to edge out that creek over here. It goes all the way over. And there is an underneath to the creek bank that's kind of dark. So we want to get that in first. I'm adding a little blue, using the same 2 or 3 colors through the whole thing. The orange will be the only pop that we'll have. And once again, we'll reflect those trees, and that's what will make it. Here we go. Just kind of outlining where this is going to go. It's narrow up this way, And then it starts widening as we come down. So I'm getting into the water a little bit with my edges, but I want it irregular. Okay. Now, I'm also going to put a little dark right here on the bank, and we'll do the orange on top of that dark. But let's get all this kind of dark right in here. Same over here. I even use a little water brush. Dab off your excess water. Going to lose a couple of those tree bottoms. Now I want some fog back in the back. See if I can conjugate some fog here with some blue back in here. I'm going to kind of blend that bottom up. There's a little blue back here. I'll tell you what, it would be hard to paint what we're seeing right now. We've had an absolutely beautiful fall. That's just the master artist that does that. It's beautiful. Love looking at it. It sometimes will take your breath away. Oh, don't get it on that tree. There we go. Nothing Bob Ross, and I'm not putting the man down. I like him. But it's very, very individual. It's just breathtaking. We drove through the leaves in the rain, and they were on fire. It was gorgeous. I'll go back over that. All right, now I'm going to dry brush in a little more substance back in here and maybe fog up some of these leaves. Hang on. But the reason I chose this is just because of all this pretty fog against the bright color. So I'm just going to fog up, and what you do is just get a dry brush, get a little white on it, and then just circle around like this. Now I may put this tree back in. Now with oil, this would be a different monster. You would have to wait on it to dry. Sometimes oil won't let you cover until it is dry, so you blend it away. So I just felt like this was a good acrylic painting. And acrylic's a lot of fun to start with any artist. All right, here we go. Dark, dark. Now, before I start my orange, I do want to get my reflection in. Let me get some more of this side. I want it narrow and then widen. There we go. Now, sorry y'all, I'm talking to myself. It's hard to talk and paint at the same time. There we go. Now, I've got some leftover black. I'm going to go with this tree first, and I'm going to get this straight down right here. There we go. If you need to get your finger, get rid of some of it, do it. This really strong one, just get your brush and take it straight down like that. Now you don't see it curved because you're not supposed to see the whole thing. You're just going to see a partial reflection. Then this tree behind it, I'm just going to use leftover paint and get him in. You do see one of his branches for some reason. So I'll bring it out. Leftover paint. Then as we get down into the water, it's super duper leftover paint. May get a little water on this brush and that's it. There we go. Leftover, leftover. This guy you see, this guy you see. Added a little paint there, not much, just a little bit. And I will show you what I'm going to do here in a minute too to make it look more like water. This one you need a little more. Isn't this cool? Why do we get this orange on here? It's going to pop. There we go. I'm going to do one little squiggly in there. Okay. Now to really make this look like water, I'm going to get a little white and just kind of, and this is probably too soon to do this, but I'm excited. Just get some white and just kind of dab it across like that, like this. Dab it on there. And I mean, you want it to show. And I'm going to put a few leaves in that too when we start the orange. There we go. Oh, that helps it look like water. You don't even have to put blue in it, but I may just do just a tad of blue in there. Hang on. Just a hint. And if you get too much, get your finger, blot it out like that. Just a little bit. Too much. So I'm going to turn my brush sideways and pop that back on there. Here we go. But it's just kind of glistening or something. There we go. Oh, isn't that cool? Blot it on here, blot it on here. Get your finger and smear it side to side. That looks like water. And now I may play with it after we get some more in there, okay? But let me make sure my trees are faded back far enough. I think so. I think I see one more place for a branch or two. Then we're going to start our bad boy orange, okay? Let's get this on here first. All right, I don't want to mess it up, but let's see. You might even want to test on your plate sometimes how dark it's going to be before you put it on the canvas. All right, I see another spot for maybe another branch. This one might need to go in front just a little more. There we go. This one's a little darker. Okay, because it needs to look real woodsy back here. All right, here's one I forgot. It goes like that and then off. There's another one back here on this tree. There's a few more far away branches than I actually got on here. So let's add them. And there's also a couple really skinny ones way back in the back. So add those too. Okay. You see that? Is it starting to go back that way? It should be. Now, here we go. This orange is kind of mean. So, I'm going to put it on one part of my plate. And I am using bright red and lemon yellow. And I'm going to do some burnt sienna in there too. There we go. That ought to do it. Now, let's find a good leaf brush. That would be something short and stubby, but these are good sized leaves. So this one I'm going to have medium size, something like that. And I'm going to mix my yellow and my red and a little sienna and a little black too, because you don't want to see through these leaves. These are leaves that are opaque and you don't want to see through them. So let's go ahead and just start orange. turning my brush sideways. All right, hang on. And this is impressionistic, and it does go back all the way to your horizon. You're not going to see leaf details, okay? It's too far back. They're too small. So just kind of skiff them on here. Now, as they go back here, they do fade out because they're back in the back. I'm going to put a few branches gnarly right up in here, but they have to be done last. Here we go. A little black, a little sienna, and then back into my orange. Got white. Oh, listen, you don't want to get white in there. White's the unpardonable sin with red. It turns it pink. We don't want pink leaves. So stay away from white. There we go. Isn't that cool? I love the contrast. Very pretty. I'm glad I went back and got this one developed. And I probably should do a little more black up in here to give it some depth in the woods. This is a perfect time of year too, just to do leaf arrangements. They don't last but a day. But in the prettiest vase you have, go out and break off a branch in somebody's yard and don't get arrested. And put it in a vase. And it makes the most gorgeous leaf arrangement that you've ever seen. All right, I'm going to have to add some more yellow. And this is going in and out of the water here, so it's not straight across. And I'm turning my brush sideways and getting some more of this back in here. As it goes back, get some of it off your brush. It's faded, and you might even want to get into your blue-gray. It's faded back in here a little bit. It's not as vibrant as up front, but it's still there. There we go. This is where your blue is kind of important. There we go. Now, you may get on some of your trees. That's okay. You can just go right back over them to make them come back into place. Now, I'm going to foggy this on up a little bit because I'm weird. I'm just going to foggy that on up just a little bit and get my hand and make that kind of but it's cool to have, you know, some of this like it's coming up off the water or off the ground. Add a little more water. Careful as you dip it on your paper towel because you probably got a lot of paint on there now. Go. Now let's get my hand and just a little more white. Fog that up. This looks like somewhere over in Blowing Rock. There we go. Isn't that cool? Now, let's get back on our orange. I'm getting off track. Here we go. Getting a little bigger brush because I want this to move on. So let's get it over here and start this orange. It's okay that the dark's underneath. Acrylic dries fast. You can go right on top of it with your orange. Just get rid of canvas holes. Those are not pretty. And I'll tell you what, guys, when you varnish this painting, it will pop. It'll look like an oil, and that's what you want. You want it to look like a rich found painting. Now, squeeze out some more lemon yellow. Probably too much. That was too much. I'm going to start going over it with my red. There we go. Because that red and blue is such a contrast. Your red and your yellows are your warm colors, and your blues and your grays are your cool, and the contrast is stunning. Okay, not too kindergarten. Then you want to do some pops in the water like this, just a few. And I would recommend doing a smaller brush and err on the side of too small and enlarge them as you can. You don't want them too big. Get a little dark. You should have a little dark underneath each one to land it. There we go. Just a few. Maybe more up close this way. Okay. I'm just kind of filling in with some darks for the bank. There we go. Helping with dimension here, making that bank a little darker. Be careful not to let it drip. Make sure you get it off with your paper towel. Now, there are a few little cool branchy things coming up off the, let me put a little bit more red over in here. It's kind of boring. And you know what? You can walk away, go get a cup of coffee, get something to eat, come back, look at your painting, and it'll tell you what it needs. I do that all the time at the shop. I get up, walk around the shop, spend my husband's money, come back, and it'll tell me exactly what the painting needs. But that really does help you kind of see. It'll tell you what it needs. Less of this, more of that. Erase this completely. And I tell you what else helps a lot as an artist is a second eye. If you've got a good girlfriend or a sister or somebody that paints, make sure that, you show it to them and they can sort of say, well, maybe a little more of this, a little less of that. All right, there are a couple of branches that come up. I don't know if I've got the right brush or not. Let's try this little teeny one. I don't want to mess it up at this point. All right, I think it's sharp enough. I just want one or two little branches right up in here, not much. There's one kind of up in the middle here. Now there are some little gnarly ones here that are pretty cool. Dark, gnarly right here. One here. And we're going to highlight those with a little red. There's a couple way back in here, and they're smaller as they go back. Remember that. That's your perspective. At front, they're a little thicker, but as they go back, they get smaller. Let's get our branch brush. Where are you? There you are. Make these really thin. Helps it look more realistic. It's not going to have a perfect riverbank. You're going to have gnarly and scraggly, and that's what you want to see on this. One way back there. Way back there. Couple back in here. Real faint, but they're there. Very faint. Y'all, I'm barely touching this canvas. They're faint, but they're there, okay? There we go. All right, enough. Now, let's get a little brush and let's pop some of those leaves up on those branches. And I'm seeing things that need to be worked on right now as I'm looking, but that's okay. All right. Little sienna, bright red and yellow, just very sporadic. No rhyme or rhythm to it at all. And we'll connect a branch to it if we need to. But get the leaf on first. And you don't want to see through your leaves either. See how you can see that little, you don't want to see through them. They are opaque. They're not transparent. Add a little more color to that one. You don't want them to look dead. They have a little color to them still. There we go. And then there's some up in here. Just a few, because fall's over almost in this painting. You're getting ready to hit Old Man Winter. And you know what's next? It's Christmas. So I've got to be thinking of a Christmas picture. But I didn't want to rush the season because I think fall deserves some time. It deserves some observance. We don't, fall is short enough as it is. We don't want to rush it. There we go. And it's beautiful. And you can get out and wander around. When Christmas comes, you'll be shopping. All right, let's do some more of these down in here too. Keep them sporadic. Now this does look like a dead branch up through here, so we're going to add him. Few way back off in a distance, barely touching it, barely touching it. Now I want to get a little bit of white and highlight some of these branches so that you see them. I'm afraid they're going to get lost in the woods if you don't. So you want to stabilize your hand. Let's see. There you go. There we go. Yeah, you may want to highlight a few of these branches that are close to you so they don't get lost. Even a tree or two, put a couple of highlights on them. I'm just going to add a couple more little leaves right up there. And always remember, odd number is your safest way to go. There is a little green in this painting, but I don't think I'm going to add it to this one. And I'm also going to just jab a little bit of stippling back in here. It's probably a reflection of the leaf. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something going on back in here. I want to get that in. There we go. Bring that on out. Bring that on out. Adding a few more gnarlies down here up close. dark right here. It's pretty dark right in here. Make where you're going to sign your name look attractive and pretty, so they don't see a lot of canvas holes down there where you're going to sign your name. Add a little more dark in here. Show that bank off a little more. There we go. I think we're getting close to finishing up. There's a few more cool gnarlies or leaves or something right back in here. There we go, that helped. Now let me get rid of those canvas holes. Not sure what that is, but I like it. There we go. Another little gnarly back up in there. All right. Guys, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you for joining me. I enjoyed this. Hope you can get out and paint and enjoy this beautiful weather, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.